If these are the real reasons for not wanting to face the reality of the breakup, then it makes sense people avoid them.
If you want to undo a breakup, though, you actually have to understand the full story. You have to understand what happened.
You mentioned there are real reasons versus excuses.
There's the story we all tell ourselves, but when a breakup happens, something isn't working.
What would you say you thought the reasons were when I broke up with you?
When you discover there is something wrong with me, so much so I'm gonna get abandoned, that's terrifying.
So until the real reasons are revealed, you're kind of stumbling around in the dark.
Even in our relationship, I saw, okay, I'm letting you break up with me over and over. Why am I doing it to myself?
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the Attachment Diaries. I'm Gabriel.
I'm Karolina.
And today we're going to be talking about why the real reasons for a breakup are sometimes so hard to face. So let's start by talking about why we're even talking about this. Why bring this topic up at all? It's hard enough to deal with a breakup.
When it comes to breakups, what people give as the reasons as why it happened, both on the dumper side as well as the person who got broken up with, it's often not the full truth, not the full story. So if you want to undo a breakup, though, if you want to fix it, you actually have to understand the full story. You have to understand what happened, the real reasons, not excuses. What people often say when they break up, also what you said to me, are generic things like I've fallen out of love, or I don't know what I want, or I can't give you what you want, that kind of stuff. And then people who get broken up with, they also don't really want to face the reality of what actually happened and what's actually even going on in the relationship, me included back then. But if you want to fix a breakup or even heal from a breakup, you kind of have to go there to dig and know like what went wrong, really, what wasn't working. Maybe there's something you did wrong, there was something I did wrong, right? Both sides are generally to blame. So that's why it's so important.
Makes sense. And so you mentioned there are real reasons versus excuses.
Yes.
So the excuses often can sound like I've fallen out of love.
Yes.
You care more than I do. It's not working for me anymore. I can't make you happy.
Yes.
These are repeated things we hear from clients, right? It's
Yes.
almost as though they're all following a script of some kind.
Yeah.
Even though they're not, right? They just end up saying the same things.
They don't even know each other.
They don't even know each other.
Yeah.
And you're saying that there are actually underlying real reasons for the
Yes.
breakup. So can you give me some examples of what real reasons are?
One good example is attachment issues. I feel like actually attachment issues often are a bit of a cop-out that people say, oh, she's avoidant, he's avoidant, they have commitment issues, fear of commitment, when there is an actual problem in the relationship. And then you might find out like, okay, I do have outbursts of anger, or I did follow, her home, or I did plant an AirTag in the car, and, things like this. So there's the story we all tell ourselves. But when a breakup happens, usually something isn't working, or almost always something isn't working. Even if that thing that isn't working is this person doesn't care as much. Even that's like really hard to face.
Right.
And I think that's what was hard for me to face as well. I mean, that there were things I was doing wrong, right? And also that maybe you didn't love me the way I wanted you to love me, or you didn't think of our relationship the way I wish that you would have thought about our relationship.
So before we get into our own breakup and the reasons and all that, just to summarize what you're saying here. So there are these excuses that people generally give quite frequently that we hear a lot. And then there are real reasons, which are an underlying sometimes maybe long-term problem in a relationship that just snowball to a point where one of the partners can no longer take it and they say, I want to break up. And that reason, the real reason or reasons sometimes, is often hidden. So,
Or it's multiple reasons.
or it's multiple reasons. Yeah. So what would you say you thought the reasons were when I broke up with you way back when?
It was actually different reasons for different times. And for the first breakup, actually, you manipulated me into breaking up with you.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You did. And I didn't get it. Like, I was stuck in that frame of mind. And it took me a month to realize it, that you were forcing me to break up with you. And I remember coming to you and confronting you about it and being like, what the hell? And we got back together.
I was saying,
like you were saying, I'm trying to protect you. Like, that's
you were, well, I go along the lines of we're too different and I can't make you happy. We want different things.
We want different things, but you are like making it as so that I'm the one ending it.
Yeah, naturally. So I don't look like the villain. So you retrospectively understood that I played.
I want to make my own decisions. Thank you very much.
And we got back together.
Yeah.
So the next time was similar reasons, different reasons?
The second time, I thought the reason was that you didn't want to be there for me. Because I had this tooth operation and I was so scared. And you were like, I'm going to be there. And then you broke up with me like 2 weeks before. And I also really wanted you to come with me to another wedding. And you didn't want to. So I thought these were the reasons that you wanted to bail, basically. And I think you did want to bail on the wedding. You didn't want to come to the wedding. But with the tooth thing, you then did like call me and was like, okay, I'll drive you there, or I'll come and I'll pick you up. And I was like, you broke up with me. You coming with me to the doctor right now is not going to make me feel any more relaxed, you know? So, I declined the offer. But like, I thought that was the reason, but it ended up not being the reason.
There was a deeper underlying reason.
Yeah.
Would you say you at some point understood what the real reason was?
No.
I mean, I've only told you 1,000 times, but...
I mean, at some point, yes. I did, I guess, some reasons. Because like I said, there are multiple reasons, right? So I think I got pieces of the story. I didn't get the full story back then, but I got one piece, I guess.
So is it fair to say that the story you had for yourself about our breakups, why they happened, what the reasons were, changed over time? Looking back, you find that you see that the reasons, there are things that were excuses and there are things that were reasons. So you do see this difference.
Yes, very clearly, yeah.
Would you say it's similar with our clients? That when we talk to them over the course of many calls, their story changes over time as to why the breakup happened?
Yes. They gain clarity on what they actually did, and they gain clarity on who their partner really is, and that changes the whole picture and the whole story.
And by extension, their approach.
Yes.
And what we recommend.
Yes.
So until the real reasons are revealed, you're kind of stumbling around in the dark. And you're maybe trying things blindly, like, oh, I'm just going to do no contact. I'm just going to write this text message. I'm going to write a love letter, without understanding what you're grappling with.
I feel like you're almost in a haze and you're grasping at straws, being in a maze, and you're afraid to, like, any step is going to be a trap. So it's like this very emotionally charged state where you're stumbling, you're panicking. And then once you get the full picture, once you get down to the real reason, it's like you can take a deep breath and it suddenly all makes sense. And it's not this like terrible thing, but then you're like, aha, this happened. And I guess it's sad. It is what it is. Or you realize, okay, I know what I need to do to fix it. Or you just come to terms with it and you're at peace and you're like, well, this person was just immature all along, or they were never available, and it has nothing to do with me, right? It's not that I did something wrong. It's just what it is. Or, okay, I messed up and I need to apologize. And I need to make it up to them. And, of course, they're going to test me. So once you reach that clarity, it fixes everything. But until you get there, you're stumbling in the dark.
So as long as you're working with excuses that the person that broke up with you gave you, trying to fix the breakup, you're not going to get anywhere until you're actually dealing with the real reasons. You're grasping at straws, stumbling around in the dark, and are not going to get results, whether that's wanting to get back together or just coming to terms with the breakup. What comes to mind is clients I've worked with that even years after the breakup are not at peace with the breakup because they don't know the real reasons.
Or they don't want to admit the real reason. Because that's what it often is. But you just don't want to accept it.
So there's also an element of, am I willing to accept the truth of why the breakup happened? And if not, you're continuously also just
chasing a ghost, I guess.
And it hurts, right? Like the people suffer tremendously.
Yes.
Like there's just absurd amount of emotional pain, and sometimes that manifests into all sorts of physical problems too that they carry.
I find this is extremely common with people who got ghosted, where they were in a relationship and it unfolded and everything was perfect and they were told a story, and then this person vanished, and they can get so hooked on the story when the reality was this person never meant a word they said. They tell this story to everyone they meet, and then they poof, move on. And that's tough to face because you thought you found the one, but you found a lie.
These are also difficult cases in that people that experience them often are repeaters. They keep experiencing the same dynamic. They fall for people that tell them these lies, that sweep them up off their feet, that love bomb them, to then just ghost them, and they wonder what's wrong with me. That brings me to an interesting question. So if you are stuck in these kinds of patterns where you hear the same reasons over and over again, but they are just excuses, they're not the actual reasons, what can you do to snap out of it, to change that pattern and take autonomy and charge in your life?
You have to realize that there's something you don't know. And that's scary. It was for me too. If something happens, right, and you continuously get the false outcome, at some point you have to be like, okay, something's off in my whole approach. I need to have a look at it and figure out what's the missing puzzle piece. Like what is this thing? Why, right? What's wrong? What am I missing?
So it boils down to the same thing of needing to know what the real reason was. And until you do, you are just trapped, essentially.
And also why you might be blind to this, or why you might have a hard time accepting this real reason. Because I would say it's 50-50, like 50% blind to the real reason, right? and 50% unwilling to accept it because it's so upsetting.
So, in the cases where somebody's unwilling or not wanting to accept the real reason, what would you say are the typical ones you see more frequently, where it's hard to face the truth?
The partner never cared.
So, like the ghosting, for example.
Yeah, or just someone who was not that interested from the get-go and never made an effort, really. That, like, one side was carrying the load of the whole relationship. And yeah, so that I think that you might have fallen for someone who wasn't that interested or something like that. I think that's a hard one. And of course, another really hard one is when it's an abusive relationship. And that, like, I see that with people who are in relationships with alcoholics or narcissists, that, like, facing that reality that this person is being horrible to me is, like, devastating or really difficult.
So, these two scenarios, for example, where either somebody was not as invested as they pretended to be, or somebody is actively abusive to their partner, make it incredibly difficult for the other to face the real reasons for the breakup.
I think they're very difficult to face anyway, in every situation. But these are the most difficult, I would say.
And what would you say makes them so difficult to face? Because the people are struggling with this cycle they find themselves in,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Where they're endlessly chasing this person, trying to make it work, even months, years down the line, because they're trying to fix a heartbreak of some kind, a pain that they want relinquished. So, what do you think, or what have you seen are the reasons that people find it so hard to accept?
I think it's always the same reason, no matter what. And it was the same for me, I think, and for us, that it's like you don't want to admit that the breakup is your fault. On one hand, it's like easy to say, oh, I messed up, I'm sorry, please take me back. And especially if it's like, oh, I've been texting too much, I can fix that. But when you discover, okay, there is quote unquote something wrong with me, so much so I'm gonna get abandoned over this thing that is wrong with me, right? That's terrifying. That's like, there's just so much judgment, I guess, that comes with it. And it's like, if it's a deep insecurity, I suppose. So for us, right, one of these, because our breakups had multiple reasons, but I would say the two biggest ones, the two biggest underlying reasons, were that I was actually overall distant. And like, we didn't feel so connected, or not in every way. And the second underlying reason was that you thought the grass is greener, or you still wanted to experiment, I guess. So, like, we were in our mid-20s, right? So it's also not so crazy of you to not want to commit for life just yet. But
It was crazy. I should have known better. It would have saved us a lot of trouble.
It would have. It would have. But it's a journey that everybody has to do for themselves. And yeah, you did jump from one long-term relationship, from a toxic long-term relationship, into another relationship. So it makes sense you were weary of commitment. At the same time, I did my searching, I did my dating in my 20s, so I was ahead.
You already got it out of your
I
system.
got it out of my system, and you were behind. And I had to face that, like, yeah, you are just behind. You didn't get it out of your system. You still have to get it out of your system. And whether I like it or not, that is what it is. And even that was hard to admit, hard to accept.
So you're saying that the blame is sort of self-directed to some extent.
Yes.
But I think what's important to underline is that, because you mentioned earlier that a truth that's hard to accept, the reason is that you've done something
Yeah.
wrong too, right?
Yeah.
But in an abusive relationship, I think it's important to underline that you may have done nothing wrong, but this person is still going to treat you
Yes.
badly.
Yeah. 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 I guess it's like the difference between blaming yourself and saying, this is my fault, I shouldn't have done this. But even in an abusive relationship, like what can be hard to accept is that I let it happen.
Right.
But at the same time, accepting that, okay, I let this person hurt me is the thing that can free you then and say, I will no longer let this person hurt me. And without this like blame game, without blaming yourself, just like seeing it for what it is. And in any relationship, I think, like even in our relationship, I saw, okay, I'm letting you break up with me over and over again. Like, why am I doing it to myself? So if I think being stuck in this like guilt narrative is part of what keeps everybody trapped and prevents you from facing the real reason, because it can come with so much like judgment. But yeah, the judgment is not helpful, I guess, in that sense.
So in a way, we're trying to escape or avoid the judgment that something is somehow deeply wrong with us when somebody has broken up with us. And that can include, why am I tolerating this kind of treatment? Or I'm unlovable, I'm not good enough in some way, shape, or form. But you're saying that until you face those feelings, that reality, the real reasons for the breakup, you're a slave to them.
And they are so scary to face because they come with a lot of judgment.
So compassion is important.
Yeah.
What's something you told yourself and you maybe tell people now that helped you get through it?
I watched Perks of Being a Wallflower back then, and it was about Emma Watson being stuck in an abusive relationship. And she said, we accept the love we think we deserve. And that really stuck with me. And I told myself, why do I believe I deserve it? And somewhere there, right, I did. Or I thought I wanted it. Like I wanted the drama or something, that the drama was there to make me feel like this is worth fighting for, or like this is real love. When you read love stories, they often come with a lot of drama. So it's a common misconception, I guess, that everybody has. And at that point, I was like, well, I used to feel this way. I no longer feel this way. I don't want any more drama. I'm done with drama, you know? I'm good.
Right.
It's actually not what I want. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel like love. It just feels like rejection. So maybe I did used to believe I wanted it, but I no longer believe that I want it, or I no longer want it.
And now you settle for boredom, right? We joke. We joke that
I
our
love
relationship
boredom.
is boring, and we love it that way. It's predictable. It's we know what's coming.
I have my level of drama, right? It's very low.
Yeah, we have low drama.
Low drama.
Yeah.
Yes.
More enjoyment.
Yes. No breakups.
So how do you then translate that understanding that you had after watching the movie to people you work with?
I generally always try to find the underlying reason, and then I try to make them see it. But it's not easy, and a lot of them don't want to see it. But some do, and the ones that do are the ones who get their ex back, basically.
something I've noticed with people that come to us after having been with other coaches, specifically where they've been told, oh, just do no contact, do no contact, do no contact, is they're kind of surprised that I'm asking so many questions because I'm really trying to get down to the root cause of this breakup, what the real reason is.
What actually happened.
Yeah, and this can take a few calls to really get to the essence of it. And they're often pleasantly surprised, and they're like, God, you're actually trying to figure this out with me here. It's not just like, oh, just here's a generic cookie cutter mold approach, apply it, and they'll come back, which we argue often does more damage than good. Like, you really do need to get down to the real reason.
Yeah, there's no way around it. And as long as you're not willing to face it, you're going to repeat it. And I also get repeated people who come to me a year later in a new relationship, and it's the same story. And one of the most common cases like this are the ones who say, we never fight.
We never fight in our relationship.
Yes. Well, that's the reason. You don't fight, you just break up and you end things. Like, that's...
There's no conflict until
there's no room for conflict. There is only room for breakup.
So there is only one conflict.
Yeah.
And that conflict results in a breakup.
Yeah. So yeah, until you get down to... because everybody has their set of blind spots, I guess. And until you get down to the thing you think you're doing right, but it's not benefiting you, you're gonna get stuck in this very situation. And that was the thing with us too. The breakup kept repeating, right?
Yeah.
And
until we figured it out.
And it was the power dynamic and you having too much power. And it was also me not being able to connect with you or not being able to listen to you. Because shortly after we got back together the third time, that's when I figured out what you were complaining about this whole time. Because you also kept on complaining about things, right? Not when you broke up, but when we were together. Yeah. And then I finally got what it was that you were wanting from me. And after I did, we never broke up ever again. So, yeah.
Yeah. I need you to listen to me.
Yeah.
Active listening comes to mind. The importance of active listening.
Yeah. The sun just came out. So there's a second reason that is hard to face about the real reasons for breakups. So what we talked about now is like the self-blame, right? And like the part you play in it as the person who gets broken up with. But I think almost as difficult is to face the fact that your partner is not who you thought they were. Or like that the idea that you had of them in your head is not accurate. I think it's almost as difficult to come to terms with that as like the fact that you might be doing something wrong yourself, or almost even more difficult.
Because it's pretty scary to have this image of somebody where you're like, I love this person, you invested who knows how much time, energy into the relationship, into them.
Like the sunken cost.
Yeah. And you think that you know who they are through and through.
Yeah.
And then it turns out, maybe... I think it's worth mentioning that even you and I, after our breakups,
we had these moments
of understanding that we were not... it wasn't the full picture, right?
Like, nobody's as mature as they make themselves out to be. Period. Even 70-year-olds, you know?
Yeah.
No one's mature. We're all big kids.
Right. And discovering that your partner has some major limitation or some mental health problem, or
that they're selfish, you know, or that they're superficial,
can be really devastating. Or
yes.
It comes like a shock often, I find, that you're just like, what did I get myself into? I thought I knew this person. Turns out I didn't. And you're
It comes as a
saying,
shock, or it comes as like outrage, I guess. Depends on the person's character. Maybe too, it's a shock. To me, it's like
I
outrage.
see it's outrage.
Yeah.
Mhm.
How dare you? Though you also
How
get
dare you not
outrage.
be
How
who you
dare you
thought I
not?
was?
Yes. Yeah.
No, I definitely also had
Yeah, you have
outrage.
outrage.
I think it's
A lot of
first
outrage.
shock, then outrage, then gradual acceptance.
Then sadness.
Yeah, yeah.
Then potential acceptance.
But as this is the thing that you're saying is generally scarier.
Or as scary. I don't know. I guess I'm undecided. But yeah, it's often like, and I think it was the case for us as well, that you have an idea that you found the one, and then it turns out they're just human. And they might have flaws that you yourself have overcome. Like what I was saying, that I was past the dating phase in my 20s, mid 20s, because I've been there, done that, and you haven't. And in a way, it's like you're losing the one. You're losing that idea, the idea of who you thought this person was, and also like who you fell in love with, I guess. It's like you have to give up. Like we all have these fantasies of perfect safety and perfect partner, endlessly loving and understanding and patient and brave and, you know, all that. And then it turns out, what, you're just human?
How dare you?
What a disappointment. Or, you know, or you're this selfish,
Yeah.
or you're this careless, which you are, you know. But I had to face it. I had to face the real you, not the idealized love picture you, and be like, do I even want him?
No. Tables have turned.
And turning the tables fixed it.
So what you're describing though is very, very deep running, intense emotion. Whether it's, okay, this is all my fault
Or
and
there is
I'm
something wrong
broken,
with
there's
me, or
something
there's
wrong with
something I
me,
didn't see.
or my partner is not who I thought they were, why did I choose this person, and
Yeah.
so on and so forth. If these are the real reasons for not wanting to face the reality of the breakup, then it makes sense people avoid them because they are just that emotionally intense.
Yes, it's a process.
Right. So which brings me to, how do you come to terms with it? What does that look like? Not specifically that the person wasn't who you thought they were or that it's all your fault, but just some reality, some reason for the breakup that is just hard to process.
I think you keep on trying, you keep on trying, you keep on trying, and you get burnt over and over again. And then at some point, you realize this is kind of pointless, and I'm trying the same thing over and over again. And then you start asking yourself questions. And only once you have this moment of self-reflection, like, you have to stop and look inward and check in with yourself. And it's initially very scary. And it's initially kind of hard. My first reaction was like, no, it can't be.
Right.
But then, you know, you look at the partner and staring you in the face like, okay, it is what it is. And you just gradually come to terms with it. Much like with anything that's unpleasant, but you can't do anything about. You just, you realize it's not your fault, but it is what it is. Or it was what it was. And now what?
So that makes a lot of sense. And ultimately, if you go through that process, after a breakup, even, you have much higher chances of making it work with your ex, or if you're in the midst of a crisis of your relationship, to fix it, or even if you just want to move on and be at peace. Facing this reality, going through this process you're describing it, would you say is what you need to finally get what you want ultimately?
Yes. Yes. Whether it's getting the ex back or not getting the ex back, or moving on and never getting together with someone like this ever again.
And until you go through that process, you're likely stuck.
Yes. And you'll
Either
be
with this
picking this type
person
of person.
or this type of person, right?
And when you're picking people pleasers, you're gonna continue picking people pleasers who never tell you anything and just run when things become uncomfortable. If you're picking people who exploit you, you're gonna keep on picking people who exploit you.
And so on and so forth.
And if
yeah.
you're picking people who abandon you, you're gonna keep on getting abandoned.
So it's really in your self-interest
To
to do
figure
this
it out.
work, to do
Yes.
this. Because if you, it's like the slow cooking frog analogy. If you're just staying in this cycle and you are suffering, you may be suffering less and slowly over a long term, or you choose to face the music and go through a maybe more intense pain, but more short-lived, and
I
then
wouldn't
come
even
out the
say
other
it's
end.
intense. It's more intense. I find that the pain of the like stumbling in the dark is almost always worse. Actually, it's about coming to terms with losing something or someone, whether it's like losing like certain delusion about yourself, or losing an idea of somebody else. It's a loss.
Yeah.
And it's like loss of a person in some ways, like you gotta grieve, but it is what it is. It's not, you can't conjure it up. Like if someone's not who you thought they were, you can't make them, you can't force them, you can't mold them. So you're never gonna get what you want. So you might as well come to terms with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Or live in denial and continue
continue
suffering.
getting hurt. Yeah.
Okay, so on that light note, we'll call it a day. Thank you for listening, guys. If you have any related questions to our discussion, I know it was a little on the heavier side today and deeper maybe. Let us know whether you found it helpful, and add questions to the comment section if you'd like something answered. And if you found this helpful, of course, please do like the video, subscribe if you'd like to hear more from us. And for our listeners, follow the podcast, and we hope to see you in the next episode.
Yeah. Thank you. And
Bye
bye.
for now.